Everyone, Shawn Bob, Project Blue Preventive Health Initiative here again. My team really wanted me to create a piece of content speaking to the challenges that some people have with understanding the way that the Preventive Health Initiative works. In other words, one of the most common objections, areas of resistance that we experience when it comes to feedback is this is too good to be true. And some people then use the word free. Listen, nothing in life is free. Incentive is funded through payroll with savings from premiums. There's some economics and mechanics that go into the way that this works. So just keep that in mind, is that too good to be true, one of the most common objections. Well, my response to that is typically the government and insurance companies came together, found a way to save money and make money. The two largest influencers in our economy have this incentive in place to improve public health, reduce the cost of healthcare. It's really not too good to be true from my perspective. Now, I've had this conversation thousands of times over the years, so I can understand that this is new information. But another one of the most common questions we get is that if this has been around since the ACA implemented it in 2014, how come we've never heard about it? Well, the most logical response to that question is that the government does not spend money to market incentives to save you money. The government rewards businesses that are activated and actively looking for ways to reduce cost, leverage incentives. And again, every one of these incentives, this isn't a loophole. People describe tax incentives as loopholes all the time. This isn't a loophole. This is a law. These are rules that are codified, by the IRS and plugged into, your claims and so on and so forth. So the reason for them is so that you can stimulate the economy, create taxable revenue, create jobs, which creates taxable revenue, sell products, which creates taxable revenue. Like every one of these incentives is designed to benefit you. I guess most people just are not accustomed to the government doing something that would help them. But I can tell you that the government is not going to peel off, 50% of the budget that you're entitled to from this incentive to educate you through marketing on how the incentives work. That's not the way it works. We're supposed to have people on our team to do that. Well, the crazy thing about this is that CPAs and people who do tax preparation, they do not typically specialize in finding money, reducing costs, leveraging incentives. They count the beans and protect you when it comes to reporting the beans, but they're not looking to find more of them. So that's another one of the most common, questions and areas of resistance. When we're going through this process, a lot of times somebody in leadership will delegate us out. It's like, oh, well, you should talk to HR. Oh, well, you should talk to my CPA. He's the guy. And, my very simple question in response to that is, okay, so you're saying that your CPA is your trusted advisor. He's the guy that should know about this. Yes. And you absolutely believe he has your best interest in mind. You can trust him. Yes. So my question to you is, if he already knew about this, why didn't he tell you? He doesn't know. It's not his job to know. And that's not a criticism. It's just an observation. So what good does talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about it when I've got forensic CPAs, ERISA attorneys, opinion letters, plan documents, all of the content and collateral from the CPA journal and the IRS, everything that you would need is right here, and I can walk you through it step by step. What do we need to bring in somebody else with an outside perspective who, a lot of times, unfortunately, human resources, overworked, underpaid, and they're not going to see any of the savings that you benefit from. All they can see is all the work they'd have to do to roll out something new. So unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, HR is where the deal goes to die. They don't understand that as your TPA, your third-party administrator, all of the enrollment, all of the admin, all of the compliance, all of the work is on us, not on them. The way it would look for them is a couple hours with us over the next couple of weeks. And that time is spent little 30-minute increments, little working blocks where they're providing us data to do what we need to do so that we can go do the enrollment and so on. So it's more of a done with them system, but 90% of the work that needs to be done We do the work for them. Now, 10% that we cannot do without them, they're just helping to facilitate and providing us information. It's not very labor intensive. And again, once the employees are enrolled, we're doing all of the customer support and so on and so forth for them. So it really is. So it's the reasons that HR might not want to participate are actually not realistic. From the outside looking in, I can understand why they might feel that way. But the reality when working with us is that it's not going to create a ton of work for them. And then let's see what else. CPA, sometimes we will be delegated out, to, let's say, a broker or a vendor. How we've got our benefits broker, our benefits consultant, our benefits, we really trust them. And the same questions that I ask as it relates to the CPA is it ultimately boils down to, if they're a trusted advisor and this could benefit you, why haven't they told you about it? Well, because they don't specialize in tax incentives. This isn't employee benefits. This is a tax incentive. Just so happens to include a couple of resources for the employees, which we provide. So this isn't going to create conflict with a broker exclusivity. This isn't going to create challenges when it comes to new incentives that the employees get. We take care of all of that. It doesn't conflict or compete with anything that's going on. And because you're not taking money out of your budget, we're putting money back in your budget, not taking money out of your budget. This is not going to conflict with anything that they have. However, CPAs, benefits brokers, etc., they tend to be pretty territorial when it comes to accounts and business. And so a lot of times they'll make it difficult. Unfortunately, that means you do not receive the benefit and of the incentive, and your employees don't get what's included for them because somebody on your team who didn't know about this and doesn't understand it wants to pick a fight and be territorial. So just something worth considering. If we have all of the attorneys and CPAs and documents and processes in place to ensure that this is far beyond compliant and that your team isn't going to have to do a bunch of work to implement it, what are the real concerns? And, can you pose those questions to us in a way that allows us to stay productive and stay in momentum? Because just so you know, there is not a question that you could ask that we could not answer as it relates to compliance, economics, and mechanics. There is not a resource that you could request that we couldn't provide as it relates to all of those things. And I am telling you, having done this thousands of times, it is a relatively simple thing to implement. It's a light lift because we do most of the lifting for you, and we're just there to facilitate form and function and gather information. This is information we can't have access to without you. So it is a very simple process to implement. Not easy to understand in the beginning, but just a little bit of time and a little bit of an open mind gets us where we need to go every time. And we do this pretty consistently and have been for quite some time. So hopefully this will cover for you all some of the basics in terms of, concerns and questions, and is it too good to be true? What's it going to cost me? What is it? How much work is it going to be? All relatively simple. And again, when you go through the process with us, we're going to sit down and emphasize each of these things as it relates to you in detail, in specificity, as it, will be implemented in your business. And each business has an idiosyncratic routine. There's differences in one payroll system or another, and one employee avatar or another. We've just covered this so many times that we really make it as simple as possible for everybody. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. Hopefully we see you on the next module. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, whether you decide to work with us or not. And hopefully we do get to meet in person. Thank you so much.